The first challenge that I'll talk about is politics. Politicians think that we can't run away from that because at the core of our profession are issues of human rights and social justice. And sometimes on the continent, this is lacking, and our politicians do stumble on our rights and social justice. And sometimes then you find us responding and social workers challenging politicians. So you find that we are troubling. To them, we are troubling. And to us, we are troubled because they tremble on what is core to social work, issues of social justice, issues of human rights, and such issues. So you find that politics becomes a challenge on the continent. Issues to do with corruption on the continent. These are issues that affect social workers and the profession because they do hinge on what we stand for. They do hinge on worthy beneficiaries of resources not accessing them. They do hinge on the problems that the continent faces and the issues that then social workers have to deal with. Currently, we are having the problem with COVID-19. And if you read articles, they are awash now with the issues to do with corruption, tenders on acquiring PPEs. If you read in all over the continent, you have these challenges. And with the vaccines coming, you and I know, we are certain. You read about corruption and how these vaccines were secured and such things. So these are issues that will always be being a challenge for social workers, but we will not keep quiet. You'll find that we are troubled, but we are troubling because we have to stand for the rights and the communities and people that we work with as social workers. The second one, that professional recognition. Social work is not recognized, and this is why you find social workers wanting to come up with councils to regulate them and to ring-fence the profession from people who masquerade as social workers, who trample our ethics, who do not appreciate what social work is as a profession. Resources. Social workers in our continent work with limited resources and sometimes with no resources, but we do what we can with what we have. The issue of documentation that has been a theme in our conversation, Jacob, I will not talk about it. The issue of ratios. Because of our numbers and because of exodus, you find that the ratio of social workers to their clientele is so huge, and that it is related to the workload. Our poor working conditions because of lack of resources is also important. You also have interference from politicians, interference from influential people in our work trying to influence our decisions. That becomes also a challenge. Yes, limited access to technologies and trends. This is also a challenge for social workers. We are in Africa. Yes, we have now technologies catching up, but because these things are still new, they're expensive. As we are doing this conversation, you find that we have interruptions. And yet I am one of the fortunate social workers on the planet, but still I have challenges. So you do find that we have technological challenges, but we do appreciate the support that we get from colleagues that also enhance, for instance, us having this conversation that is also made possible by our colleagues at the British Association of Social Workers. They've made this particular conversation that I'm having with you possible. So if it wasn't for that, it might even be difficult for me to have this conversation, or else I would have to go to the School of Social Work to have access. But because we are under lockdown, it also becomes difficult. Now, which also brings the issue to do with COVID itself has been a challenge for social workers. Much of us as social workers, when COVID came up, governments did not appreciate what social work could do and the value of social work in the pandemic, amidst the pandemic, such that we were not regarded as frontline workers. But slowly, government caught up. Now we are involved as frontline workers. But being frontline worker challenges, for instance, access to PPE itself, all such things. So these are some of the challenges. But these challenges bring about opportunities. So the opportunities that we can get, these opportunities derive from these challenges, because these challenges give us the ability to innovate and come up with opportunities for social work. Opportunities include indigenous social work. But this does not mean that African social workers cannot also tap into African practices to come up with indigenous knowledge systems that can also be borrowed by Western social work, that can also be used, much as we use and borrow knowledge, we can also share. So there is an opportunity for indigenous social work from the challenges that we were talking about, which also brings us to African philosophies, for instance, like Ubuntu. I am because we are, and because you are. So the interconnectedness and the appreciation of human relationships in social work interventions, and us borrowing from that. We'll have a conversation on this, and we are having conversations on this, and we can also talk about documenting our African stories. And one such way is the African Journal of Social Work. We also have the Journal of Social Development in Africa, and other African journals that can also articulate our social work practice and best practices in social work. I'm glad and also proud to have been part of the project for the African Journal of Social Work, because it is a vehicle that produces an opportunity for an African canvas where we can draw our African story. There's also opportunity for social action and social justice as we challenge the inequality on the continent, but also shared opportunities and collaborations. These are opportunities that can accrue. I am currently on this platform sharing, and this becomes collaboration and opportunities to share. So these are opportunities that come from the disadvantages that we have, but we work past these disadvantages to come up with opportunities.
Thank you. Thank you.